It's over 9,000!
To Final Forum, a podcast for the discussion of all things Dragon Ball. I am your host, Jelli, an elite recruiting member of the Frieza Force on a mission to find the best warriors from across the galaxy to join the greatest army of all time. And I am joined, as always, by my new recruit co-host.
This is the Bekinney, and join us as we uncover the cultural inspirations and hidden history behind Akira Toriyama's seminal franchise.
I still say that's a pretty unimpressive way to start your episodes.
And I still say, shut up.
Ooh, you totally got him.
Thanks.
Does he not know about sarcasm? I honestly can't tell anymore.
Oh, the writing on my character is somewhat inconsistent, I'll grant that.
Writing? Character? What's he talking about? Oh, yeah, it's best to just tune that out. It invites metaphysical examinations of our lives that are best not to think about.
But if he's saying there's some sort of script governing all life, then
this is not reality. Everything is being determined by some grander being.
Everything we've done and will ever do is just at the whims of some person writing a story?
Like I said, it's best not to think about it.
I advocate for not thinking too hard about this, for sure.
He advocates for not thinking, and you're okay with it? Oh, no. By no means am I okay with it, but you kind of get used to it. It's like living in the end years of a former world power, crumbling under the weight of its own hubris and nationalism, being run by an absolute joke of a leader. If you really think about it, it's horrifyingly paralyzing, so it's best to just put your head down and keep on keeping on, I guess. Well, that's depressing.
Yeah, we needed you guys out of here. You're harshing the mood around here, which was pretty upbeat until you showed up.
You guys have gone to some dark places mentally. Not me, though. I'm too busy thinking about getting into this week's topic. And this week, we are going to start a brief foray into the Garlic Jr. arc. It's only going to be 2 episodes, but it must be done because they're the next episodes.
I see this as training for GT at some point in the future.
This is 100% filler that we're going to be discussing pretty soon as we go through forward. But before I pass it over to Bekinney to give us our episode recaps, I am going to remind everyone out there that if you enjoy listening to us and you want to help us out in a small way, you can make sure you're subscribed, and then also just whatever app you're using to listen to us, throw us a rating. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button and throw a comment or a review that just says, hey, good job, or I like this, or something quick like that. All that traffic helps, right? All the interaction traffic helps even more than the views, which we do also appreciate. That said, I'll kick it back over to Bekinney, and we'll start talking about the Garlic Jr. arc. It's episodes 108 through
to
112. So 5
Right.
episodes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's start off this week with episode 108, titled The Heavens Tremble. So, does life really go back to normal, or at least their version of normal, for the VZ fighters? It would seem, however, that Garlic Jr. has escaped the dead zone and is planning revenge on everybody. No, not just the fighters, literally everyone on Earth. Meanwhile, Gohan is goofing off in the woods. It's been about 10 months since the whole Frieza thing, and life's pretty much gotten back to peace. But there's still a few changes. Gohan's now doing the hunting for the family, and Krillin is a pimp. That's just a kid joke, but he does have a girlfriend named Marin, who looks an awful lot like Bulma. I'm sure there's no lingering issues there at all. Anyways, the one person who is pretty much still doing the same thing, however, is Piccolo, training by himself in the wilderness. Kami stops by for a visit in hopes of convincing Piccolo to become the next Kami, but no dice. Piccolo turns him down and warns him that the Demon Clan is making moves again, which is perfectly timed as they're now attacking Kami's lookout. They stopped tearing things up long enough for Mr. Popo and Garlic Jr. to have a touching reunion and sort of recap what happened in the Dead Zone movie. The Dragon Ball one, not the Stephen King one, just letting you guys know so you don't watch the wrong one. Remember that Gohan was the one who sent Garlic Jr. into the Dead Zone, which I think may be important later. Garlic Jr. is after Kami's throne, because, he had a whole thing where he thinks he should be the one that's God. And his men quickly apprehend Mr. Popo. Then they lay in wait for Kami's return. At Kami House, the gang is catching up and meeting Marin for the first time. Roshi tries to proposition Marin in front of Krillin. Everyone laughs it off, and then we're whisked away to Gohan's home, where Chi-Chi denies Gohan's request to go visit everyone at Kami House. Instead, he's told to study. Yay. Kami gets home, sees his lookouts defaced, and is certainly shocked to see Garlic Jr. Garlic makes quick work of him, trapping him similar to Mr. Popo, so he can maintain access to the Dragon Balls. Gohan decides to sneak out at this point with Icarus' help and head off to Roshi's so he can see his friends, while Garlic decides to release an evil mist from Kami's lookout that will turn the inhabitants of Earth into members of the Demon Clan. Which brings us now to episode 109, titled Black Fog of Terror. So Garlic's up to something spicy. He's taken over Kami's lookout, and he's using Kami's sacred mirrors to project the black fog all over Earth, ensuring the rule of the Demon Clan. Isn't that kind of the same Demon Clan that Piccolo was a part of? Shh, we don't talk about that right now. Gohan's hanging out with Icarus the Dragon again, just sort of having a lovely day in the wilderness as they make their way to Roshi's with his animal friends when the black mist overtakes the forest. Now, if I remember correctly, I believe Gohan ends up getting stuck in a hole and Icarus plugs it so that Gohan and Icarus are somehow not exposed to the black fog, which keeps them from being changed. It's a little...
Yeah, so don't worry.
It's a little contrived, but it works, I guess. But anyways, the animals suddenly much less friendly. Gohan and Icarus beat a hasty retreat. A bottled Mr. Popo tries to break the glass in this emergency, but it holds firm. Kami reflects on what has already transpired between he and Garlic's family. Speaking of repeating the past, Garlic is looking to kidnap Gohan to force Goku to show up. But we already know that there's a galactic monkey wrench stuck in that plan since Goku's not on Earth right now. Then we get a scene of everyone at Kami House, again, hanging out with Marin and everyone getting to know each other. That is until Chi-Chi crashes the party looking for Gohan. Marin throws a little bit of shade, calling Chi-Chi old, but then we learn that Chi-Chi also somehow knows the Kaioken technique. The fight gets broken up before it starts, but Marin does have a point. Gohan's not here. She and Krillin continue their scuba diving while the black fog kind of rolls over the Kami House. So again, this is another one of those contrived instances where Krillin and Marin are sort of underwater, so they're not exposed to the mist, therefore they don't get changed. She and Krillin eventually come up for air after the fog has passed, and then that's when they run into Gohan, who's riding on Icarus, and they kind of catch up with him, and then they give him a heads up hey, your mom's at Roshi's, and she's kind of pissed off at you. So they all head over to the house proper, where, weirdly, no one seems to be around. As they gird their loins and prepare to enter the house, Chi-Chi goes full Fist of the North Star and appears from behind without any warning or any kind of notification anywhere. At this point, Chi-Chi skips right past words and goes straight for abuse, which would be funny if Gohan and Krillin didn't completely outstrip everyone else here in power. What actually is anti-funny, though, is that this kind of reaction doesn't immediately seem out of character to them. He does throw her off the house, though, so let's add likely concussed his mother to the ever-growing list of things this kid has had to endure. Then Roshi finally gets kicked in the head for being creepy. Hooray. And then that's when the real party poopers show up, Garlic's henchmen, the Spice Boys. They do something interesting here that I have not really... Well, I mean, I guess villains do kind of do this. It is a bit tropey, but they show up and they just immediately tell the heroes, like, hey, this is why everything's messed up and here's how to fix it. Go to Kami's Lookout. Oh, by the way, yeah, we're the ones that are in control of Kami's Lookout now, so you're just going to have to fight our boss anyway. So the stakes go from 0 to 60 in about 2 minutes. But what's interesting about it is that the whole plan seems to be built to force Goku and Gohan to go to Kami's Lookout. But then these guys, like, they don't even fight Gohan. They just sort of, like, restrain him with some sort of telepathic technique, which, if you could just do that to him anyways, why would you need to tell him about why would you even need to fashion a plan to get... You know what? Forget it. It's the end of the episode. Let's not worry about it. Anyways, while they have Gohan in their grasp, who shows up to save the day but Gohan's daddy, Piccolo? Which brings us to episode 110, titled Battle on Kami's Lookout. So yes, Piccolo is here to save the day. He talks smack about Garlic Jr., teases out a bit more information, and we get a nice bit of concrete setting lore that will be permanent and not forgotten 5 minutes later. What helped Garlic Jr. escape the homeworld of the Demon Clan is the Makio world, which is, I guess, the demon homeworld, approaches Earth every 5,000 years, and that awakens their latent power, which allowed Garlic Jr. to free himself from the Dead Zone. Now, let me say that again in case you weren't really paying attention. The Makio world is the homeworld of the Demon Clan, which was, to my recollection, started by Piccolo. This planet is located within our solar system and is on a regular orbit that brings it near the planet of Earth every 5,000 years, and not Namek, the planet we were just on basically the entire last arc. My disbelief is going to need new shocks and struts after this one. Anyways, they're surprised Piccolo doesn't know this, which, I mean, honestly, if you were the head of the Demon Clan, yeah, I would also be surprised if you didn't know this. Anyways, they do drop a deadline. After 24 hours, the Black Fog effect will be permanent, which I think I might have failed to mention to this point, but the Black Fog just makes everybody really aggressive and crazy. So they sort of try to sway Piccolo to their side, but he decides to stay on the straight and narrow. Now, Demon Yamcha took that personally and decides to attack. Roshi puts Krillin through a wall, and Marin has to be rescued from Bulma and Chi-Chi by Icarus. Piccolo tells Gohan and Krillin to make for Kami's to get the cure while he holds everyone else back. Makes sense, he's the strongest, he can do crowd control. He also almost immediately gets taken out by Yamcha and everyone else, making this Yamcha's and everyone else's last victory in Dragon Ball, I think. Best arc in the series so far, Yamcha gets a win. I really like the part where the henchmen don't even bother, like, following Gohan and Krillin. Instead, like, they even, like say this out loud. They're just like, yeah, we're not going to bother following them. We already know they're going to fight our boss, and we're not worried about it. Instead, they stick around to explain that those turned by the Black Fog operate under zombie rules where bites spread the curse. So, and they're explaining this while Piccolo is currently being chewed on by, like, 4 different people. So, oops, guess Piccolo's a bad guy now. Then we get a quick cut to Vegeta genociding Frieza's forces, which, awesome redemption, but it's still kind of self-serving because Vegeta's just pumping these guys for information on Goku's whereabouts. Back on Earth, Gohan and Krillin, apparently Icarus and Marin, have arrived at Korin's. Everyone kind of gets introduced, and Korin tells them that the Ultra Holy Water is deep in the temple and likely well guarded, so they're going to have a fight on their hands. The boys move on unperturbed and leave Marin in his care, and then they get to Kami's and are faced with both Garlic Jr. and a newly turned Piccolo. That brings us to episode 111, titled Fight with Piccolo. So our heroes are down an ally, but Gohan is ready to step up. He takes a swing at Garlic Jr. that misses, and Garlic seems unbothered until his cheek bleeds. So, there seems to be a recurring theme with villains and pride in this show. Anyway, point 1 for Gohan. He tries to follow up with a Basenko, but Garlic reveals that he's holding Kami and Popo hostage. This makes the boys much more pliable. The beatings continue, but morale does not improve. Then we get this comedy scene where, like, Marin, Korin, and Yajirobe are, where it's kind of like playing off, like, Marin being sort of a fish out of water in terms of, like, the world that the Z-Warriors live in. Back at the fight, Krillin goes down pretty quickly, which seems to be his hallmark at this point. Gohan is now the only thing standing between Garlic Jr. and ruling the world because Vegeta has to go, blow off some steam because of performance issues in the Super Saiyan department. And then we cut back to Kami's Lookout, where Gohan murks 2 of the henchmen like they're nothing, and the others cut Piccolo loose, who quickly subdues Gohan and begins choking the child. This was aired on TV. Guy choking a child. Anyway, episode 112, titled Call for Restoration. So let's add getting choked out by your mentor and martial artist master to the ever-growing list of things that Gohan has had to go through. The abuses continue, and you now know that the bad guys are truly the bad guys because they're just enjoying inflicting pain on everybody. There is some pretty good art, though. The other henchmen try to force their way in on the action, but Piccolo kind of just forces them right back out of the fight. They take a quick mid-fight break to play Upsy-Daisy while Krillin tries to stealthily rescue Kami. All it really gets him is nearly killed, because Garlic has at least a few brain cells to rub together, and he sort of anticipated somebody trying to steal his hostages. Luckily, Gohan throws Piccolo in the way of Garlic's blast that's meant for Krillin. Oof. Add that to the list. Gohan shows concern for Piccolo, and that moment of letting his guard down is the opening that Piccolo is looking for. Krillin jumps in the way to save Gohan and joins the zombie horde. Meanwhile, Marin is cleaning out Korin and Yajirobe in poker. Apparently she's a card shark. And Gohan is now worried about Krillin, but he doesn't have time to worry long as Piccolo continues his assault. Gohan catches one of the meanest beatdowns we've seen yet, like worse than Frieza-type beatdown. Like, it is brutal. Piccolo then decides 2 fists aren't enough, so he goes for 6 by splitting himself in 3 and giving Gohan a triple beatdown. Then everyone else joins in, even Krillin. Gohan then proceeds to catch more hands than Daredevil, but Garlic wants the final blow. He wants to be the one that kills him, which puts Garlic in range for the plan to go off. Piccolo, it turns out, has been faking this whole time. That makes all those horrible things Gohan just went through so much worse. Add it to the list. Piccolo snatches Kami and Popo off of Garlic and frees them, and now the tables have turned.
I will say, minor correction.
Oh, did I get something wrong?
It would appear the game that Korin, Yajirobe, and Marin are playing is Old Maid, is what it looks like.
I didn't even know there was betting in Old Maid. I thought for sure it was poker.
Well, but they're clearly picking cards out of each other's hands.
I was not paying attention to that.
And
I just saw cards and thought poker, I guess.
One of the cards is Uranai Baba, and in Japan, Old Maid is called Babanuki, and I believe which basically means old lady, basically. So it's it's Old Maid, essentially. And
makes sense.
It's I think Korin gets stuck with the Uranai Baba card at the end, and therefore he loses. So I think they're playing Old Maid. If you're a listener and you don't know what Old Maid is, it's basically a card game where if you wanted to play it they make special decks for it, but if you wanted to play with a standard deck, you would take 3 of the 4 queens out, and then you deal out all the cards to whoever's sitting at the table, and you just start picking cards out of each other's hands. As you get pairs, you lay them down, and the goal is to not be stuck with the Old Maid, the queen, at the end. In Japan, interesting, I just learned this just now. They apparently play Old Maid with Pokemon cards. I don't know how that works.
Huh.
I just
That's
found
an
that out.
Twist.
I don't know
Who's
if
the Old Maid in the Pokemon cards?
Gengar, apparently, actually.
Okay. That's new to me. I didn't know that.
I just learned that just moments ago. Anyways. Yes, there's some definite issues with the lore here, if you're a person that cares about that stuff big time. I think the Makio Star stuff I could probably explain away, because Piccolo's demon clan is known as the Mazoku, and Garlic Jr.'s demon clan is the Makio Saijin, which is just people of the planet Makio, which would imply that they are alien demons, not demons from the demon realm. That tracks. Sure, why not?
Yeah, whatever. It's filler.
The part about Gohan mercilessly murdering people just to in what, like 100-ish episodes from where we are now, have a serious existential crisis over whether violence is okay or not.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's just like, whoops. Like,
in their defense, they probably had no idea where the story was going when they came up with this filler arc.
Oh, for sure. They were only 12 weeks behind, so 11, 12 chapters from now, I think we're still in like the Android stuff. Like, I don't even know if Cell has been introduced at that point. So yeah, we're still quite a ways away from any of that stuff that's going to happen. But I will say I was anticipating this to be a difficult watch, and I found it kind of enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a nice little palate cleanser, I guess.
Yeah,
in a way,
because
it gets back more to like the fun stuff. It gets back more to like an ensemble cast, sort of like playing off each other a little bit. The stakes are lower.
Yeah,
ish.
Relatively, it's like, I don't know. The villain clearly has to go with some sort of alternative plan, because even though he is immortal, he is not that powerful.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that it's a bit of a swerve. We talk all the time about how Dragon Ball is designed, that we just have to get stronger, we have to keep improving, but I kind of like that we get a little thing here where that's not the goal. There's a different sort of issue at hand.
I also just really like the idea of a villain that comes back who has not gotten stronger. And just like tries again and just fails miserably a second time.
I also like the horror movie influences, right? What zombies and or vampires, right? With biting people, so calling them the Demon Clan.
Because it sort of shifts the I guess the conflict a little bit, as opposed to just straight up punching this guy in the face until he stops. It's like, well, wait a minute. Half this guy's army are people that I actually like and care about. I maybe don't want to hurt them. Yeah.
And just the general pacing of these episodes I found to be totally fine.
Yeah, these were some of the longest recaps I had to write, just because they cram so much into every episode of this.
Yeah. So far, this arc gets dogged on a lot, and I'm like, oh, it's just like fine. Like,
I think it has more to do with the fact that like the villain's plan hasn't really changed a second time around.
Yeah.
He's literally just trying to do the same thing that he did last time. And I think that's why people dog on it. Even though I think there are some subtle differences that do make it better than that.
Yeah. I don't know, I liked these episodes, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah, they were fun. I have no problem with them.
So, let's get into some of our notes that we have here. So, we'll talk about the Spice Boys. In the subtitles, they're the 4 demonic monarchs. In the dub, they're the Spice Boys. Now, Spice Boys, that reference is exactly what you think it is, actually. The late 90s and early 2000s were dominated by girl groups, specifically and especially the Spice Girls. There was also, no doubt, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and a general pop music boom in this era. And this is when these episodes first aired in the US, is in like 2000 and 2001. So we are in that time when the Spice Girls and Wannabe was like everywhere, and so why not make a reference to that, especially since these characters are all named after spices, which we'll talk about. The Spice Girls have been credited with paving the way for this boom, and groups like All Saints, Bewitched, Atomic Kitten, Girl Thing, Girls at Play, Girls Aloud, and more owe their success to the Spice Girls. Now, like we said, the team over at Funimation wanted to capitalize on this trend and named them the Spice Boys. They're also named after spices. We'll talk about that just in a moment here. Because as for the 4 demonic monarchs, that's a play on the 4 heavenly kings, or 4 heavenly monarchs. I think we've mentioned these kings before, but they are 4 Buddhist deities, each of whom watches over one of the cardinal directions of the world. They're pretty standard to see venerated at Buddhist temples, and are subordinates of Indra, the ruler of Triastrimsa, a heavenly realm in the Buddhist cosmology. Now, if you want a fun little comparison there, we're talking about like flipping things and doing the opposite. And yes, Toriyama didn't write this, but we've talked about the anime staff picks up on the things that Toriyama likes to do. So they take their 4 demonic monarchs, or they take the 4 heavenly kings who serve a Buddha and a ruler of a heavenly Buddhist realm, and they flip it to be evil, 4 evil kings working for a more evil king who is the ruler of, well, technically heaven, I guess, because he becomes Kami, but don't worry about that. It's just playing around with that. I think it shows the anime staff kind of picking up on Toriyama's general tendencies. Now, this next bit might be a stretch, but I found a piece of iconography, which is a set of statues in Beihai Park in Beijing that backs me up. So we're going to go with it. And we're going to go with, I actually think I can link each of the Spice Boys to one of the heavenly monarchs.
Hey,
so we'll start with Mustard. It is obviously named after mustard. In the original Japanese, he's named Tard, and there's a pretty obvious reasons why you wouldn't want to transliterate that one, so he's changed to Mustard.
Solid choice.
Yeah. I believe Mustard is meant to stand in for Vaisravana, the Guardian of the North. Vaisravana is often depicted with a yellow face, and if you look at the Spice Boys, Mustard is the most yellow of the group. Vaisravana is the leader of Yakshas, a class of spirit we've mentioned before in our Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle commentary, as well as our Dragon Ball movies Good, Bad, or Ugly summer convention panel that's been posted as an episode. Vaisravana is the god of warfare, often depicted with a mongoose and or spewing jewels out of his mouth, and in Japan, he's known as Bishamonten, an armor-clad god of war who holds a spear in one hand and a pagoda symbolizing the divine treasure house in the other. Salt is the little red guy, obviously also named after salt. In the Japanese, he's Zald or Zoldo, which is the Japanese pronunciation of salt. He is potentially the stand-in for Virupaksha, the guardian of the West and the leader of the Nagas, a race of half-human, half-serpent beings also known as dragons and water spirits. Harry Potter fans will recognize the name for female Nagas as it is Nagini. Virupaksha possesses the divine eye and can see great distances, as well as observe people's karma in real time. In Japan, he is commonly depicted holding a brush in his right hand and a scroll in his left hand, and is known as Komokuten. He has red skin and is sometimes depicted as holding a trident or a snare. Vinegar. Once again, the name is obvious, and even in Japanese, he's Binaga, so again, pretty obvious. He's likely the play on Dhritarashtra, the guardian of the East, leader of the celestial musicians and flesh-eating spirits known as Pisakas. He's often depicted as holding a pipa, a traditional Chinese stringed instrument, though in Japan he's depicted a bit more fiercely holding a sword or spear and trampling a demon. In Japan he's known as Jikokuten. He is depicted in battles against Sun Wukong in Journey to the West, and he is often depicted as being white, and I know Vinegar is more like purple, but I'll make sure I post on our socials, probably Blue Sky. I'll see if I remember to do the others. This set of statues along with a picture of the Spice Boys, you'll kind of see, all right, yellow and yellow, red and red, blue and blue, and then, okay, this guy's kind of purple and that one's more white, but I mean, it's like the odd one out almost, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's Spice. This character is known as Gasha in Japan, which is a rearranging of the syllables for sugar, Suga, or Suga. It's a little unknown why he was changed to Spice in the dub, except maybe they wanted to make it clear he was the leader of the Spice Boys. Also, there might have been some ignorance in thinking Gasha is pronounced Gashu, like cashew, and nobody understood why someone named after a nut was in the Spice Boys, so they changed it to be a Spice. I don't really know why that decision was made. He, Spice, or Gasha, may be a stand-in for Virudaka, the Guardian of the South and leader of the Kumhanda, a group of dwarfish spirits. I'm going to have to make sure I get their name right, because Kumhanda, who are now among my favorites in East Asian pantheon of spirits and deities, as they, like my very favorites, the Tanuki, are thought of as having gigantic testicles, quote, as big as pots, unquote.
Alrighty.
We know I love my big bald spirits. Viradaka also presides over Preta, a group of spirits known as hungry ghosts who are said to suffer greater than humanity, particularly being afflicted with insatiable hunger and thirst. And very often that hunger or thirst are for undesirable things, or things that we would normally consider undesirable, like human flesh or human waste. And they also they perceive the world in a worse way than humans, where a person might look and see a flowing river or a beautiful lake, a preta will look and see a flowing river of vomit or a pool of pus. It's like a terrible existence.
Yeah.
In Japan, Virudaka is known as Zojoten and is depicted with a sword and associated with the color blue. So if you stack them up, yellow, red, blue, white, and blue, and put them alongside mustard, salt, vinegar, and spice, you can actually kind of see it. I also want to mention here that I still remain somewhat embarrassed by our Bansho fan filler episode from a couple years back, or maybe it was just a year ago, where I couldn't figure out what the significance of octagons was in Japan or Buddhist culture, because if you go down this rabbit hole of the 4 heavenly kings, you get to the guardians of the directions, which preside over the 8 cardinal directions, your 4 mains, as well as your northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest. So please don't be mad at me for that one. I said it way back when we first started. The purpose of the show is for us to learn as we go. So when we learn new stuff, it sometimes supersedes older statements.
What? Character growth in an anime about character growth? Get out of here.
I also think I mentioned in that we still found some cool stuff about octagons in that episode, if you want to go back and listen to it if you haven't yet, where we talk about one of the shrines or fortresses in Japan being like one of the first to use an octagon in its design. So there was some neat little information I found in that episode. It's just the significance of octagons and 8 in Buddhism is more tied to the guardians of the directions than it is with like octagons specifically. So
I'll even go a step further and say that folks should go and watch those episodes of Dragon Ball as well, because they were pretty good. They were fun.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk briefly about this episode's other new addition, Marin. Marin is Krillin's girlfriend and a purely filler character whose name is a play on the word for chestnut, just like Krillin's name is. We haven't done a full-on Krillin episode yet, but yes, the name Kitten is a play on chestnut, because his head looks like a chestnut. The name is also later used for Krillin's daughter, but Akira Toriyama stated that he did not name Krillin's daughter after his old flame. It's likely just a case of the anime staff being somewhat synchronous with Toriyama in picking up on these puns and plays and wanting to name a thing designed to go along with Krillin in the same sort of pun family as that of Krillin and picking a word. And then Toriyama later on doing the same thing without realizing or basically just forgetting that the name had already been used. Speaking of used already, Marin's design very likely comes from Toriyama himself. When she first appears in episode 108, stepping out of the car, Wearing a jacket, dress, sneakers, and ankle socks, she looks exactly like a character named Shamble, who first appeared in the Toriyama-created 3-chapter manga called Saving Soldier Cashman, which was published in the December 12th, 1990, June 26th, 1991, and the November 27th, 1991 issues of V-Jump. These are the first 3 issues of V-Jump ever and predate its serialization as a monthly release. V-Jump is where Dragon Ball Super was published. We'll read Cashman someday in the not-too-distant future when we finish off the Akira Toriyama's Manga Theater collection. And speaking of Krillin, he's shown spearfishing in these episodes. Spearfishing is a practice that is at least as old as the 1400s BC, but Cosquer Cave in South France contains cave art depicting seals that appear to have been harpooned, which dates back over 16,000 years. So spearfishing is as old as human recorded history. In the 1920s, sport spearfishing's rising popularity led to the development of modern diving masks, fins, and snorkels, and modern scuba diving owes its creation to the development of rebreathers used by Italian spearfishers during the 1930s. The practice even came to the attention of the Italian Navy, leading them to develop its Frogman unit, which was deployed during World War II and sank or damaged 13 Allied ships from March of 1941 through August of 1943. Spearfishing is heavily regulated throughout the world, even though many people have pushed it as one of the more conservation-minded methods of fishing, as it is highly selective, restrictive in what one can catch, and has no bycatch. That is, being caught unintentionally, like can happen with net fishing, basically. But the creation of scuba gear introduced spearfishing into areas not acclimated to human activity, and so scuba use during spearfishing is now outlawed in many parts of the world. Additionally, use of anything other than a hand spear is highly regulated. You've probably seen spear guns. I'm sure there's a couple like adventure or action and horror movies that you've seen them in.
Mm-hmm. Friday the 13th.
So
3? Does Jason kill someone with a spear gun that like
he does
shoots
pin
at the
somebody
camera?
to a something with it, right? I think
he like shoots it and it flies at, because that's the 3D one. I think he like shoots it and it flies at the camera.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to finish up, in Japan, spearfishing is only allowed with a hand spear, except in Okinawa, where spear guns are in fact allowed.
Yeah, and that ban on spear guns in Japan even includes, there's all kinds of spear guns. There's legit gun type, like that fire using the same concept as like a BB gun, using like compressed CO2 or air, that are like more gun-esque. And there's also ones that are just like held with like not a rubber band like you would think of like a rubber band.
More like a bungee cord, really.
Yeah. None of that. Like that's pretty low tech even for a spear gun, but that's not allowed in Japan. You're only allowed to use like your hand spear. And so yeah, it was kind of interesting reading about spearfishing, and you know, the idea of it being like conservation minded does seem a bit odd, because
it seems counterintuitive on the surface. Yeah,
because by its very nature, you cannot catch and release when you're spearfishing. But it is true that like you can only catch so much.
Yeah, so the thinking there is that the limited take that a person can have is less destructive than like dragging giant nets for miles across the ocean and grabbing everything that falls into it.
Yeah, so interesting stuff there. Continuing along, it seems every time we see Garlic Jr., we're making note of some sort of mathematical shape. In our Dead Zone commentary, we talked about dodecahedrons and how the study of them led to Rubik's Cubes, MC Escher, and LCD displays. Today, we're looking at the bottles in which Kami and Mr. Popo are trapped, because these look like Klein bottles. This is the infamous bottle with no volume, which are an example of a non-orientable surface or a one-side surface which, if traveled upon, would be followed back to the point of origin while flipping the traveler upside down. That might be confusing, but it's similar to a Mobius strip. However, Klein bottles, like spheres, do not have a boundary, while Mobius strips do. You could fall off the side of a Mobius strip if you were to move along it. You cannot fall off the... I mean, yes, gravity would necessitate you would fall off the side of a Klein bottle, but if you were to travel across it, you would not fall off the side. Unlike spheres, however, a Klein bottle cannot be embedded into three-dimensional space without intersecting itself. That self-intersection in three-dimensional space is of importance to people who study these sorts of shapes, as in 4 dimensions, a Klein bottle would not intersect itself. That is confusing, but the easiest way to attempt to visualize this would be to think of the number 8 written on a page. The 2 lines intersect. However, if you made that a 3-dimensional object, like, say, just a piece of string, you could eliminate the intersection by picking up one part of the string. It would still look like an 8 if you viewed it from above, but there'd be no intersection between the strings. It would be 2 strings kind of lying on top of each other. In 4-dimensional space, that's what a Klein bottle does. If you've ever seen one of these bottles, people make them as physical bottles, but they are not technically actually Klein bottles because they are intersecting with themselves. But if you've heard of this, you've seen the shape. Mathematicians and physicists study shapes like Klein bottles in relation to space-time, with time being the 4th dimensions. They're important in topology, which has applications in biology and the study of molecules and nanostructures, computer science and data analytics, physics and quantum theory, and even games and art. If you want like a single real-world potential application, extrapolating the notion of being able to utilize 4th dimensional space to create shapes that don't intersect could allow the compression of huge sets of data into spaces that would basically like allow a single thumb drive to hold near limitless amounts of data.
Neat.
So
there's an interesting parallel to that in the 3-body problem. The Trisolarans, who are the aliens in that setting, sent a couple of, I guess you'd call them scouts, but they were basically like supermassive AIs that they used exactly what you just described about that sort of like folding of space in 4 dimensions to take their massive size and then shrink them down to subatomic size to be able to spy on humanity.
Yeah, so I think if you're talking about like a single real world potential application, I mean that would be significant. Having a thumb drive that could store limitless terabytes of information. Now you're talking about like these gigantic server rooms that exist. If you work in an office, you probably work in an office that has at least a huge part of your floor of your office is like dedicated to like computer servers. Imagine that being compressed down to being like a single USB drive, like sitting in
That's pretty wild, yeah.
In a closet. And that sounds, people are like, oh, that's impossible. But 50 years, maybe longer than 50 years ago, 60 to 75 years ago, a computer that holds less information than, oh boy, I don't
Pocket
even
calculator?
know. Yeah. Yes. A computer that holds, I was trying to think of anything that someone still holds or uses to this day. It's like,
I can't think of one.
I can't,
Everything
like,
far outstrips ENIAC.
Yeah. It's like a computer that holds less information than your Nintendo Switch controller was so big it was housed in like a warehouse. So we've come a long way. So the potential is there. So, maybe 75 years from now, your iPad will be 10 times, 100 times more powerful than today's full-size laptops.
I forget specifically what it's called. It's some kind of law in computing, but they say that every 6 months computer power doubles.
Okay.
So that's kind of just undergirding your point here. That we already see it in our tech.
That's a possibility. In a better world, I'd say freeze yourself for the next 50 years and unthaw and marvel at the wonders that we've achieved. But you risk waking up in a post-apocalyptic wasteland at this point.
You might end up waking up in the middle of Idiocracy or something.
Or the original ending of Army of Darkness. Are you
Oh.
familiar with the original ending of Army of Darkness?
I am not, no.
Okay, so in Army of Darkness, he goes to sleep, wakes up, he's back at S-Mart doing his job, and the Deadite attacks. Hail to the king, baby, and then that's the way that ends. In the original ending, because Ash is a dummy, he accidentally takes too many drops of the sleeping stuff and sleeps for too long and wakes up, and it's like the end of the world. And he's like, oh no, I slept too long. And that's the way it ends.
That's, you know what? That's pretty on brand for the rest of that series, to be honest.
It's pretty on brand for Ash, too. Yeah, that he just constantly is miserable and put upon. But yeah, you risk that. So, proceed with freezing yourself at your own risk.
Completely bypassing the fact that nobody's ever successfully done it.
Well, yeah, that too, but, don't worry about that part.
Don't let your dreams be dreams, as somebody once said, I'm sure.
You just walk right into that Quickie Mart, put all the ice cream on the counter, and then freeze yourself.
You
in the
deliver that
freezer.
pizza to Icy Wiener.
I was going Simpsons, and you went Futurama on me.
It's weird that, if I had a nickel for every time Matt Groening used some sort of time travel based on sleep, I'd have 10 cents, which ain't much, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Is that a Phineas and Ferb reference?
Maybe.
See, I caught that one. But yeah, there's other stuff we could talk about in these episodes, but we're going to take a mild gamble that not a lot new shows up in the next few episodes that comprise this little 10 episode filler arc, because I think we'll save talking about like stories of mist and fog and things like that for a discussion of the Blackwater Mist and aka the Aqua Mist in the next episode.
Makes sense to me.
Because we're trying to find what we can when we talk about 10 episodes of a filler arc that Toriyama didn't write.
So we're struggling to fill time, much like the people who made this show at this point.
Yeah, but they did. I think I also think all the Spice Boys are well designed. Like, I think those are good Dragon Ball-y designs. The one guy, I'll say of the four of them, Mustard is the one that I would say least looks like something Toriyama might have designed.
Yeah, okay. I could get behind that.
Just...
Because usually he'd go with something way more, like, goofy for, like, the air quotes, non-human character.
Yeah.
Or I guess the non-humanoid character.
Right. He just, I don't know, there's something about that character just has the least... I think it's a proportions thing. His head is almost like too pinheaded or something for his body. I don't know what it is. He doesn't strike me like every other character strikes me as looking like Toriyama could have drawn them.
I think it's the neck. I think the neck is what makes his head look like that. Or maybe that is part of his head. Maybe you're just completely right.
I don't know. I do like that Vinegar and Salt both are wearing hats that look like condiment bottles.
It is pretty good.
And I like...
In fact, you know what? I can't believe I didn't notice that before about Vinegar, actually, because I've seen so many Vinegar bottles that have that exact top on it.
Yeah. I like that we have more or less the male version of a boob window on two of the Spice Boys. We've got ab window armor.
I think I would assume at this point they're trying to get women in on the fandom. You gotta give them a little something, right?
Yeah. Giving them washboard abs.
You know what? I take it back. I think that's just for the boys. I think that's just for the boys to have something to work towards.
Oh, that's yeah. Just to have something to work towards, not stare at. Listen, it's the straightest thing that ever existed. A bunch of sweaty guys.
I was listening to the latest episode of that podcast. Jelly just seems really into vinegar for some reason. Don't know why.
Abs.
I mean, they are pretty good.
Listen, he looks like a cuddler, is what I'm saying.
Also, I just like given the Demon Clan's history with Goku and his family, I would feel like leaving your midsection open to attack is probably a bad idea. Just putting that out there.
You know, spice or sugar looks similar to Nikki from the Dead Zone. Not exactly.
Yep. No, but it's that same. It's the hair, I think.
It's the hair. They're both like blue, and
then
they
he's
both
got like that collar.
And they both wear like pinkish. I mean, I think Spice is a little more. I'm gonna use the word, but I want it to be taken correctly. A little more flamboyantly colored, brightly colored. Whereas I think Nikki is a little more muted, a little more pastel-y almost in terms of the colors. I think Spice is designed a little bit more bombastic.
I'd also say that, like, especially at this point in Dragon Ball Z, even Toriyama's style I think has changed, especially when you compare it to like earlier Dragon Ball.
For sure.
And Sugar seems more like what the art style was currently for Dragon Ball. Whereas Nikki feels a lot more accurate for where Dragon Ball was when Dead Zone dropped.
That's also true, yeah. And I would say Salt also has a vague similar appearance to, I'm not sure if it's Ginger or Sancho is the little yellowish guy from Dead Zone. But
I was also going to say that no, I take that back because he's got ears, but I was going to say Goldo.
Yeah, I was, kind of like looking at these guys as sort of Ginyu Force-esque also, where Spice would be probably Jace, and Mustard might be Raccoon or Birder, and then, Vinegar might be Captain Ginyu himself or Raccoon, and Gerd. Or Gildo as the little Salt, but I could get behind that also.
It's a good filler arc. Yamcha gets a win, and we get Temu Ginyu Force,
and we get horror movie type of stuff too. This is
horror movie stuff, which is a nice, I guess, new spin on things because we haven't really had that.
This episode's gonna come out in like May or June or something like that, I think. But this would be a fun little 10-episode arc to watch. If you're really trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna watch some Dragon Ball as part of my October viewing, Garlic Jr. arc.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
At least so far. Maybe it ends in a. It's been a long time since I've watched it. Maybe it ends with a Bollywood dance number, but I don't think so.
Oh boy, are you in for a surprise.
But spinning back to these episodes, solid episodes. You mentioned the telekinetic hold. I really like the way it's animated when they use it against Kami.
Oh yeah,
it's like
good
red webbing.
Mm-hmm.
I dig that. I thought that looked really good. So, but that's kind of all I got for this batch of episodes.
That's all I got for now. I will probably have more after the next batch. Okay, we've got some new coordinates punched in. I think I solved the variances, and we'll be sending you back to Frieza-controlled space.
You think?
Well, these are complex calculations. There's a chance you materialize inside of a star, or a black hole.
Or in another universe entirely.
Wait, what?
Oh, I very much doubt that. I mean, what are the odds there's more than one parallel universe?
Well, if there's one, then I'd say the odds of a second one, a third one, even an infinite number of them is astronomically higher than if there were none.
Yeah, but 2% is astronomically higher than 2 millionths of a percent, so what kind of numbers are we even talking about here?
Well, given the space-time bends and the probability fields created by such massive fluctuations of energy...
Yeah, that was a rhetorical question.
Still want to swap bikinis?
Don't tempt me, recruit.
Fire it up, Bekinney. Let's get these two out of here.
Okay, here we go.
Ready, recruit?
Not in the least. Listen, other Jelly, other Bikini, thanks.
How do we know you're not the other Jelly and Bekinney?
Hey, I'm starting to like this guy.
I would have thought nothing would make me excited to step into a dimensional portal that has at least as good a chance of killing me as it does sending me home, but the idea of there being two of you has definitely done it. Let's go. Farewell.
Best of luck.
Will we be scattered across infinity like dust in the wind? Or will this next leap be our leap home? Find out next time and help us achieve our final forum. And avoid the copyright strikes of invoking Quantum Leap and Dust in the Wind.
Final Form is written and produced by Tom Gwelly. It is performed by Dan Kinney and Tom Gwelly. Our webmaster is Dan Kinney. Our theme music is provided by YouTube content creator GVG Kit. Want to learn more about the Dragon Ball universe, including concept art, behind-the-scenes interviews, and recommendations from Jelli and Bekinney? Connect with us on social media. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at Final Forum Pod. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you receive your podcasts. And of course, make sure to share it with your friends and family and help us spread the word of the glory of Lord Frieza. The Frieza Force thanks you for your listenership.